Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my humble, windy home in Livingston, Montana. Okay, the date today is 11/18/2020. Make sure this mic of mine's going here, which I'm sure it is. Okay, it's storytelling time. I want to get right into this story so I can tell it and get going. That's supposed to be funny, but a lot of you are sitting there going, I'm not having a good time. Well, that's your problem. Anyway, back in my youth, a lot of you probably think that I don't have any stories of, later years, but that's not true. But anyway, this is another one of my youth stories. My family lived in a place called Boren, Montana. That's where my mother was born, but I wasn't born there, but I spent a lot of time growing up there. Okay. There was this old redneck rancher that I used to work for. He lived east of town. East of town, about 3 miles or so, 3-4 miles. His name is Gene. Ain't no use, no last names. Gene's done passed on a long time ago. But this one in particular, fall, winter, for some reason, I can't remember why, but Gene had me staying out at his ranch house. And Gene never did have any kids, and his wife's name was Dorothy, and she was a real nice old gal. Gene, he was a mean old bastard, because all he wanted to do was just work the ever-loving, SHIT out of me. That's all he ever wanted to do. He was another guy that wasn't having any fun. I gotta have a little coffee. I got a frog in my throat. Anyway, the way Gene had things worked out with me this particular school year, he had me working for room and board. I was actually staying out at his ranch, had my own little bedroom and all that, and he was paying me $1 a week. 100 pennies a week. I want to make sure I drive that home for all you people that are whining that, you're out of money and every other thing. Anyway, I had to laugh about that one because a lot of people go, $1 a week. I don't know if I can believe that. Well, you can just believe it because it's the truth. Anyway, this one particular day, old Gene and Dorothy are gone. I don't know where they're gone, and I'm rummaging around in their house, and I wasn't really looking to thieve nothing or steal nothing or nothing, but I was being bored because Gene didn't leave me with any chores or anything, and so I decided to go down in his basement because I'd never been down there before. And you know what the old saying is, curiosity kills the cat. Well, that's about what happened to me. Anyway, I'm down there in this dusty old basement, cobwebs all over the place, and dust and, all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden I see this old set of wooden shelves. And there was like about 12 or 15 bottles of not Jack Daniels, Jim Beam whiskey lined up. I don't know, I didn't count them, but there was a fair amount of whiskey bottles lined up there. And then there were some wine bottles lined up. Now, the way I figured it, I never really did see old Gene drink much, but he must have been one of these old boys that got up in the morning and had a rip. I've known a few of them guys in my day. Can't seem to get to, they call them eye openers or whatever have you. You guys have probably seen those type of guys too. That, maybe I'll have a drink at noon or something or whatever have you. But anyway, I never did see old Dorothy drink much, but I figured that wine was hers. And I knew doggone well that whiskey was Gene's, So I decided to steal a bottle, snitch a bottle, commit grand larceny with the bottle, or whatever have you. I decided to run off with a bottle of his whiskey, like if I had brains enough to know what the hell I was doing, which I'm sure I didn't. I was like about 15 years old. I remember that, 15, no older than 16. Now, I was about 15, somewhere along in there. 15, maybe even 14. I don't know. That was right around in there. So I grab up this bottle of whiskey and I run down the lane to where his lane met the main road that went into Ronan. And I wanted to hide this whiskey, but I wanted to also be able to get access to it in a quick hurry. So I took a piece of baling twine and I wrapped it around the neck of the bottle real good and tight and everything. And this twine was about 6-8 foot long, and I carefully put the doggone bottle. There was a creek right there. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. There was a creek with a bridge that went over it, the main road. There was a bridge there, and you really couldn't even tell if it was much of a bridge or much of a. It was more of a culvert than it was anything, But anyway, I take this bottle of whiskey and I stick it in this culvert in the creek real well, and I covered up with some flat rocks and tied off that twine, that baling twine, made sure everything was real good and secure. Now this was the morning after I snitched. I do believe I snitched that whiskey on a Sunday, if I remember right. And the next day was Monday, and we had school. Or I might have snitched on a Thursday night, and the next day was Friday. But, it was one of them convenient times for a little thief like me. Anyway, doesn't matter what day it was. And on the day that I hid the whiskey and everything, I was waiting for the school bus to come by, because the school bus would come by and give me a ride that next 3-4 miles into Ronan to go to school. Well, there was this friend of mine that lived up towards the mountains. He lived about another 2 or 3 miles away. He was a real good friend of mine and all that kind of stuff, so he was already on the bus by the time the bus come and picked me up. The old bus driver with that old door, you know what I'm talking about. On the bus I go, and I found old Jerry, and my friend's name was Jerry, and I plunked down beside him, and the old bus driver and closed the door again, and took off. And I says, "Hey Jerry, I got something, man." He goes, "What's that?" And I says, "Got me a bottle of whiskey." He goes, "What the hell you think you're going to do with a bottle of whiskey?" I said, "Drink it, you damn fool." He looked at me, he goes, "Really?" He says, I says, "Right down there." And as the bus was taken away, I says, "Right down there in the creek." And I told him the whole story and everything. And so we go to school that day, and I know doggone well we're making plans on what we're going to do with this bottle of whiskey when we get off, out of school and all that kind of stuff. So we get on the bus, and we ride clear out to Jerry's place and everything. And we got to wait till it gets towards dark. Because what Jerry decided to do, we went out to his dad's ranch, and his dad wasn't working out in the woods, and his dad had I don't remember, it was a Ford or a Chevy, I think it was an old Ford. It was a 1 or a 1.5 ton truck that we used to haul Christmas trees. We hauled everything, firewood, everything with that old truck. And it was a real beater too, the old 4-speed, squeaky brakes, the whole dang thing, bold tires, Anyway, it starts getting dark, and we, when I say we, there was Jerry, my buddy, and his brother, who was 2 years younger than me and Jerry and myself. And we all sneak down in the woods and steal this old man's abscond, Grand Theft Auto, off with his dad's truck. We took off through the woods. There was an alternate way to get out to this road that we wanted to go to get into town without having to pass the ranch house, and like that. Jerry was driving, Craig was right next to me, and I'm riding shotgun. So the whole idea was we were going to go to the show. Back in them days, you didn't go to a show anyway. You didn't have DVDs. You didn't have Roku players. You didn't have, any kind of streaming services or any of this kind of stuff, But we had to stop. At Gene, the guy I worked for, because he gave me, like I say, a salary of an hour or $1 a week plus room and board. And I told Jerry, I said, I got to stop here and get a buck from old Gene there. He owes me, because I'd worked the whole week. He hadn't given me my dollar yet. And so I stop in there and I told old Gene, I said, hey, can I get paid? And old Gene, he didn't like the idea and he gave me a bunch of crap. And he goes, well, we got some more work to do here and there. And we haven't done this, we haven't done that. And I just wanted to tell him, shut the hell up, I want my dollar. And anyway, after wrangling a little bit and everything, they wrote me out a check for $1. I think Dorothy did. So I get it and I take off because they want, well, where are you going there, Jim? I said, I'm going to the show. And back in them days, if I remember right, the show was like 75 cents or 50 cents or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, all I know is I had enough money. I had enough money to cover the show, and I had a fifth of Gene's whiskey. I figured that was all good enough. So we go zooming into Ronan and park that god-awful truck somewhere and went into the show house, Well, we only sat in there for about 20 minutes, and I can't even remember what was playing. I really can't. I sat here before I started up this file and tried to think of the name of the show, but I can't remember. It doesn't matter anyway. So we got bored after about 20 minutes, and I know it was on all of our minds, and that was drinking whiskey. Have you ever been tempted to do that? Sure you have. Sure you have. I'm just kidding you. Don't get all excited here or whatever. So anyway, we left the movie house and we got back in the truck again. Jerry driving, his brother in the middle, and me riding shotgun, So we started slowly just driving around that old redneck cowboy town of Ronan, Montana. And pretty soon I couldn't resist, and I picked up that bottle, that fifth that I, cracked the top, And I had never drank this poison before. I didn't know anything about, back in my day, about 50% of the men I knew drank, and about 50% of them didn't drink, something like this. But I take this whiskey, and I smelled it, and I told Jerry, I said, man, this stuff smells like shit. So I take me a little guzzle and, kind of stuff. And I pass the bottle over to Craig. He goes, no, I don't want that. And then he gives it to Jerry, and Jerry takes a little nip, just a little nip, and he goes, oh, that's terrible, Anyway, the bottle ended up back in my grubby little greedy fingers. And so I'm sitting there looking at this brown colored ugly stuff. And so I start sipping on it real slow like, well, not real slow like, but small amounts. But, like that. And, they don't fill whiskey all the way up to the top. They just fill it up to that shoulder. You guys know what I'm talking about. Maybe a little bit past the shoulder of the bottle. But I drank down about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches at the most, for sure. No more than 2 inches. I know this for a fact, just because I know we found the bottle the next day or a couple days later. But I'm not done with the here and now part of the story. Anyway, I drink this much booze, about 1.5 or 2 inches, and man, that it only took about 10 minutes for that whiskey to hit me, man, and it hit me like a jackhammer. I mean, the next thing you know, I'm sitting there going, I'm swearing at everything. I got a damn fucking, excuse me, I didn't mean to say, I didn't say that, strike that. I don't want to tell a story all again. I go, look at that building there, and I was just cussing everything. Look at this effing window here, and I was just talking out my head, just cursing at everything and just gunning for a fight, really, is probably what I was doing, knowing me, man, because back in them days when I was young, it wouldn't take too much for me to put them dukes up. I'm not kidding you, man. I grew up in one of those kind of environments. But anyway, pretty soon I looked over at Jerry and I said, hey, look at here, you SOB. I said, you can't drive this truck with a shed. And I started giving him all kinds of crap. all kinds of crap about the way he's driving his dad's truck, and we were only going like 15, 20 miles an hour, round through the little town of Ronan, Montana, and I don't even think I personally could drive that truck. I didn't even have a driver's license yet, and I don't think Jerry did either, and I know his brother didn't, But anyway, something got into me, them spirits, but why do you think of, back in the old days on the saloons, they used to say spirits, Well, anyway, them old spirits was really working on me by then, and I reached over past, Craig was sitting right here, his brother was sitting right next to me, I'm shotgun, Jerry's driving, but I reach over there and I grab the steering wheel and I start just jerking that steering wheel every which way but sideways. Everywhere but in Jerry's lap, up, down, yeah. I'll show you how to drive this truck, That ain't no kidding, man. This is what the hell I was up to. And his brother, Craig, got really mad. Now, remember, he was 2 years younger than both me and Jerry. And he just, since I was leaning over like this, trying to wreck the truck, he had a perfect shot at the back of my head. And he just kept pounding on my neck and pounding on my head. And I remember even as drunk and numbified as I was, it still kind of hurt, I could actually feel it, And them brothers, they both realized that I was way too drunk. There was nothing they could do for me or anything like that. So they took me home to my parents' place in Ronan, but they went through the alley and dumped me off in the alley right behind my home, okay? And it was the craziest thing. They were able to, shut the doors real quick and get away from me before I could, run after them or grab onto the flatbed or any of this other stuff. And man, I was so drunk. Me and my stepdad and my brothers had put in a brand new back fence. And we put in a brand new back gate. And I was so doggone drunk, I didn't even remember to open up the gate. And I just fell over the fence. That's how I just fell over the fence and stumbled up to the bunkhouse where us boys slept. There was 4 of us boys, and we slept in the bunkhouse. My stepdad, because he bought this place and it was kind of small, so he decided to build a sleeping quarters for us boys, So I stumbled in there, and I had a younger brother, another Boren, 2 years younger than me. He was trying to watch TV, and my stepdad, his 2 boys, they weren't my real brothers or my stepbrothers, but they were all trying, those 2 were trying to watch TV. All 3 of them were trying to watch TV. And I sat down on the edge of my bunk, and I'm like this, trying to get my clothes, my clodhopper boots off, and all this other stuff, and I kept arguing with the TV set. I remember that all too well. That's not true. That son of a bitch there, I know. That actor is... And I kept arguing about what was going on TV, what the plot was, who the actors were, and pretty soon my older stepbrother said, "Jim, shut the hell up, you're drunk." See, the reason why old Mike knew that is because he'd been sneaking around there with his fair share of beer bottles and all this other stuff, and same with my other brother. Probably only one of us out of the 4 was my younger brother, Nick, and I don't think he quite got to that stage where he was snitching booze and all this other stuff, But old Mike cussed me up one side and down the other and kind of got me to the point where I thought I'd better shut up. And I remember I tried watching TV and I was like, it's like this. I no more understood what was going on that TV set than I did anywhere, So pretty soon I pass out in bed. Now I'm going to speak to you guys for a few minutes about the fountain of youth. So pay attention. Do you know what the fountain of youth is? No, it isn't when a young man, gets puberty, and has the eruption, A lot of people think that's the fountain of youth. I'm going to tell you what the fountain of youth is. Here I found myself laying flat on my back in the middle of the night, just like this, and all of a sudden I go, blah, and I got sick from that whiskey, and I puked straight up into the air, and it came straight down in the middle of my face. That's the fountain of youth. But anyway, I woke up the next morning, and I was sicker than a dog, man. Well, maybe some of you do and some of you don't, I don't want to turn you into a booze or whatever I do, but anyway, I went, The next day was Thanksgiving. And anyway, I knew doggone well that my mom had her hands full with cooking and everything, but I go inside in the house, and I tell my mom, I said, "Oh, I think I got the flu." "Oh yeah, I had the flu, all right. Back in the old days, the old timers used to call it the bottle flu." And anyway, so I'm laying around on her couch in the inside of the house and acting half dead and everything. And I told her, I said, "Mom, I puked last night." And boy, I must have put on a real good act, let me tell you. My screensaver kicked on here. But anyway, so I must have put on a pretty doggone good act, because she goes out there and cleans up that mess, makes my bed and everything, and how she didn't jump me is beyond me, because my mom had a real nose for sin. Trust me. She really did, She had one of them noses where she could smell booze a block away, but somehow or the other, maybe she thought I was sick enough where I learned my lesson or something, but she never did say nothing to me about it, and I figured I was busted for sure, but that's really the end of my story. How many times I've wasted 21 minutes, 22 minutes here, dang near. But, finally I couldn't eat nothing that day, and it was Thanksgiving Day, and I never touched booze. I never drank after that for at least 2 years. Matter of fact, the whole time I was in high school, I only drank about 4 or 5 times. I really didn't like drinking all that much, man, back in those days. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for letting me entertain you. Take care of yourselves, like I'm always famous or infamous for saying. We shall see you on down the trail. And I must bid you adieu and adios and all that good stuff. Okay, I got 22 minutes and 40 seconds. It's way too long. Well, goodbye.